Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be talking about Secret Invasion, and a lot of people haven't liked this show and it's gotten pretty bad ratings recently. So today I'm basically going to try and fix it to the best of my abilities. Now first off, I need to talk about what I liked and disliked about the show, starting with the intro. Now I shouldn't even be having to talk about the intro. Intros really aren't that important. But this show decided to make an intro AI generated, which just does not look good. I understand why they did this. It was an attempt at making something uncanny and feel off, which it does kind of, but a human artist could have done it much better and without the implications of having AI art. Intros aren't necessarily important for shows, but I personally really love the intros for shows like Daredevil, Luke Cage, and the WandaVision intros. They're all perfect for their shows, and it's disappointing for them to do what they did here. I also think that the music for both the intro and the entire show is really good. I enjoyed that a lot. The CGI and effects for the show also actually are very good, which is great. We've had some pretty iffy CGI recently from Marvel, with some of Thor looking pretty bad and parts of She-Hulk as well. Still not as bad as The Flash, but you get the point. But it actually has pretty good effects all throughout the show. One thing just looked off in the end, but that was more of a weird choice. Cough, cough, Drax's arm. Now, the reason that the CGI looks pretty good throughout the show is because they chose to do something pretty annoying, and that is to have the Skrulls basically throughout the entire show be humans, which is pretty stupid, especially when they're at the compound around no actual humans. Like, I think the most Skrulls we saw on screen at once were 8, is not very many, and it's always for very brief scenes when we do see them. And I understand why they did it. It's to keep the budget down and also to, you know, make it easier to make the show actually look good. But this show had a $200 million budget. That is a lot of money. And I can't help but wonder what they spent this money on. So I don't know what it was, but Fury just seemed completely different in this show. He didn't seem quite as put together and stuff, and I know that that was done on purpose, but he just didn't quite feel as well done as in previous stuff. And I feel like, honestly, some of the other characters really outshined him, which, like, I don't have a problem with them being done well. I like that. I feel like Sonya honestly took a lot of the really cool scenes that maybe Fury should have gotten some scenes like that. I don't know. I just feel like that wasn't great. As for the new characters, I liked a majority of them. Sonya was fun to watch. Priscilla was interesting and unique to see. And I enjoyed Gaia as well. But as for the actual villains of the show, they were... how do I put this? Bad. Listen, I know everything doesn't have to be comic accurate, and I'm fine with them introducing new characters that weren't in the comics. That's how we get characters like Harley Quinn, and I even liked some of the new ones, but Gravik took the place of two pretty important Skrulls, the Empress and the main Super Skrull. Now, I hate the fact that these two were missing, but I also am fine with changes. I was fine with the power change. It makes sense to do what they did, since the Fantastic Four hasn't appeared yet. But not having the main two Skrull big bads in the show and having some random person here instead is a weird choice and just was badly executed in my opinion. Also, I understand that clearly Gaia is meant to become the Skrull Empress later in the future, but did we really need to have setup for that? Speaking of setup, the actual invasion is incredibly lackluster in the show. It was incredibly obvious who was and wasn't a Skrull from the start. Brody basically had to be one because he was the only hero on the actual show, and they needed at least one to be a Skrull. And Fury, being a main character, obviously he wasn't gonna be one. But the problem with who they chose as Skrulls is that there was zero setup in the previous films and shows. Even though it's not confirmed, it's pretty clear what the intent is with this show, is that Rhodey, with him being in a hospital gown and unable to walk, he clearly has been replaced since Civil War, which ruins everything they've done with Rhodey since then. And it's very clear that this is a retcon that they've decided to do. Overall, it's just super annoying having them do this with no setup. And basically, here's how I would fix that and the show. First off, I would have the big bad be the Skrull Empress. Gravik would still be in the show as her second-in-command general and would later become the Super Skrull still. Basically, everything in the show would stay the same, but instead of changing most of this show, we are going to set up stuff in the previous shows and films. In War for Wakanda, we have Ross act off, make him not know something he should, make Shuri or another character question him, but forget about it since they had to deal with like Namor and stuff. Have Sharon Carter be a Skrull. It makes sense, and you wouldn't have to change anything from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as she was kind of acting off anyways, being the power broker. Then, also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, have Rhodey act normal when he appears originally in the premiere episode, but later in the show, have Rhodey show up and say that Sam shouldn't be Cap. This would obviously seem off to the audience when earlier in the show it was pretty clear that he thought Sam should be Captain America. But this would at this point be a Skrull who doesn't want a Captain America to exist, because Cap will inspire humans and stuff. Sam would argue with Rhodey a little bit before leaving, and Rhodey would then call someone on the phone, which would be Gravik, and say it didn't work and that he didn't give up the shield and they would have to go with plan B. The audience obviously would not understand this, but it would make sense later on when in Secret Invasion, Rhodes is revealed as a Skrull. But also, they should have had Sam show up in Secret Invasion instead of waiting to deal with stuff himself, which the way they decided to not have the Avengers in the show was pretty bad reasoning for most of it. I mean, in the beginning of the show, it doesn't make sense because he doesn't really say why he doesn't want them to show up. And then towards the end, he just is saying that he wants to deal with it himself instead of the obvious plot of just saying that he doesn't want them to get the DNA of the heroes, which would have made much more sense. But instead of wanting to do all this stuff alone, Fury would contact Sam because he was a SHIELD agent and can deal with stuff quietly, and not talk to the other Avengers because they deal with stuff too loud and would cause a panic on Earth. He would help Fury and the others for a bit until towards the end of the show, when they try and save the president, Sam would be the one telling the world and the president about the Skrulls working with the Russians. At this point, it would be pretty clear to Fury and the audience that Sam is a Skrull and is turning the world against itself. Gravik and the Empress Skrull, instead of trying to get the president to nuke the Skrulls, would try and have him declare war on Russia for attacking him. Then basically the ending of the show would have been the same, but with Sam and Rhodes in the hospital. And having Sharon be revealed, who would have shown up throughout the show, like when Fury got a ride, it would have been her instead. And then have her be revealed as the Empress to the fake Fury in the final episode in Russia. Gravik and Gaia would still have their fight, and she would have also just killed the Empress as well. Still don't think that this show would be perfect, but it would have made a lot more sense to me, and you wouldn't even have to change that much. Also, ending would have had Fury with Priscilla on the space station, and maybe just throw in Quake and Coulson and some other SHIELD people just working on random stuff. There we go. I fixed the show. Give me my awards, please. Anyways, that's it for the video. Bit of a different video, but let me know if you liked it. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.